Hey guys, it is NCSFan001 here, and today we might be starting out a brand new cooking series. So you will have already seen in the title of the video a potential recipe that we will be cooking. Well, I mean not potential because it is the recipe, but what the potential series could be. I am considering starting a series of making recipes from the Ramen Noodle Recipes Cookbook. Now, I saw this cookbook several years ago on a video from Brutal Moose, and I actually recently re-stumbled across that video and decided, hey, it might be fun to pick this up. It was like $9 on Amazon, and it has some very delightfully weird recipes in it. So there are some recipes in here that look like they would make sense. Like, for example, there's like a whole series on, say, noodle bowls. So soups and noodles and dishes that would make sense to where you might be replacing, one little ingredient with the ramen noodles. But then there's stuff in here that's just really, really weird and that I doubt would actually be good. So that's more what I want to explore with this potential series if this first video does well. So, for the first video, we are going to be making ramen spaghetti tacos. Now, with this recipe, two things immediately come to mind. First thing that comes to mind, iCarly must not have trademarked the idea of spaghetti tacos, because I think this book came out after that. And perhaps more importantly, the second question that comes into my mind is why would anyone think to make this in the first place? Now, on that second thought, it eventually dawned on me where half of the recipes from this cookbook probably come from. If I had to guess, about half of the recipes in this cookbook were probably written by someone that served some time in prison in the US. Because for those who don't know, in the US, prisons, they have a commissary and you can buy certain food items from there, and ramen is the cheapest item you can buy. So like all the prison meals they make, which they make some pretty crazy stuff, the best, or the majority of the recipes require some basis of ramen. And that actually makes sense with this recipe, as it's going to require 2 packages of ramen of any flavor, a cup of pasta sauce, 8 hard shell tacos, taco shells, excuse me, half a cup of grated mozzarella cheese, a quarter cup of grated or shredded cheddar cheese, and a chopped tomato. Now, I also want to say, who's making 4 servings of this? Because 4 servings is apparently 8 tacos, and I don't think anyone on this planet is doing that. Unless the second reason for half the recipes in this cookbook, someone was really high and or intoxicated when they wrote some of these. But part of the reason I picked this cookbook is because I feel like the recipes should be relatively easy to make for the most part, because they're generally not too many ingredients or steps. So that's all we're going to need for this recipe. I'm actually going to cut this recipe down to 1/4 of that, so it's only 1 serving. Because quite clearly I'm only cooking for me, and if I invited other people over, I would not make them this. So our first step in this recipe is to cook the ramen noodles to whatever the directions are on the pack, or however you like to cook ramen noodles. So I've got myself a packet of beef flavored ramen, which is my personal favorite. Do you guys like ramen at all? Like even just, this kind of ramen that's cheap and cheap, and that's literally it, and full of sodium. I don't mind it actually. I do like to eat it every now and then. I'll eat it for lunch probably like once a week. So the recipe calls for 2 packages to make 4 servings. So we're going to make a quarter of that, so it's only 1 serving. So we need half of a block of ramen. So, we've got our half block of ramen, so I'm going to cook this, and I'll be back with you guys once the cooking's done. Now, while that's cooking, I will go ahead and bring up many of the recipes, including this one, tell you to discard of your seasoning packet, but I have a sneaking suspicion that this recipe will probably end up being a little bit better if I end up using that later, so I'm going to keep it with me for now, just in case. Okay guys, so the ramen has been cooked pretty much about how I personally like it. It might be slightly al dente, but that is totally fine by me. So now we need to drain it, return it to the saucepan, add the pasta sauce, and cook over medium heat until it is heated throughout. So I am going to go ahead and drain this. Now we return our noodles to this pot. And now that that's down to medium heat, let's hold on just a second here as I go ahead and get us 1/4 cup of pasta sauce, as that is approximately 1/4 of the amount that is recommended in the cookbook. That is a 1/4 cup of pasta sauce. Alright, so we're going to put that back on there, and now it needs to go on medium until it's heated throughout, which probably will not take long. And just make sure the sauce is good and spread around in this. And I guess I could see how maybe they could make this in prison, because it's like the ramen is obvious. You can get the ramen. I think they can get cheese in prison. So yeah, I think they can get cheese. I'm actually going to drop that temperature because that's a little bit too warm. Down to low, actually, because my stove heats pretty well now. So yeah, I can see how they can get the cheese. I can see how they can get the ramen, and that's 3 of the 6 ingredients. The pasta sauce, I don't know exactly how you'd get the pasta sauce. Maybe they'd substitute like ketchup or barbecue sauce or something. And the taco shells, I think they could do that. They just have to use like soft shells, because I think they can get soft shells as well from like some of the videos I've seen of that stuff. I don't know where they get the tomato from, unless prisons now serve fresh vegetables or fruits, which I don't really know if they do. Okay guys, so now that our ramen spaghetti mess is completed, we have to spread this somewhat evenly between the 2 taco shells. Obviously I'm going to only probably be eating 1 of these because I have a feeling that I'm not, well, you know, I don't know if the taste is going to be awful. I guess I'm a little bit more worried probably about the texture. I suppose you don't know, I'm definitely more of a texture eater. That one didn't get as much, hold on. And I don't eat a ton of pasta anymore either, because it's so full of carbs and all that goodness, whatever you want to call it. So now we need to top each taco with mozzarella and cheddar cheeses. So for cheddar cheese, it says normally about a 1/4 cup. I'm just going to drop this down to about 1/8 of a cup. I know that, in all honesty, cheese makes everything better, so I should probably just load these with nothing but cheese. But I'm going to try to follow the recipe fairly close. So we got about 1/8 of a cup of cheddar cheese. So we're going to top each taco with about half of that. Well, that went everywhere, so that's about normal for these videos. Because I need things that should be easy to make, because it's me we're talking about. Since when am I a good chef? And then with this one, we'll cut this down to only a 1/4 cup, even though technically 1/8 of a cup would be probably a little closer to what it says. Alright, that might be more like a 1/3 of a cup, but again, I honestly think the cheese is going to be a necessity for this to be, like, actually good in any way. Also, out of curiosity, have you guys ever put cheddar cheese on pasta? What do you guys, have you guys ever done that? I've done that before. It's good, it's just a bit of a different taste. Now the instructions say that we can microwave these on high at 10 to 15 second intervals to melt the cheese, but I don't feel like most tacos I eat have their cheese melted. I think that's more like a quesadilla kind of thing. So I'm not actually going to do that. So it says to top them with tomatoes. Now I am not a particularly big tomato person, So I'm just going to put a few little pieces of tomato in here. And not in the other one, because I actually want to do an experiment with this one in a second. Alright guys, the ramen spaghetti tacos. I'm slightly nervous, but hopefully it's mostly just the cheese that I taste. Okay, that's really weird. That is a very odd taste. Now, I've eaten worse, to be entirely honest. This isn't that bad, actually. But I don't know what I'm tasting out of this. I think maybe I'm mostly tasting the pasta sauce, I think, is what's coming through the most out of all of this. I will say though, I was correct, the texture is weird. The texture is weird. I am not going to deny that at all. That is very much the truth. But I'm going to try something with this. We're going to take this one that doesn't have tomatoes on it, and we're going to cover it with the beef flavored seasoning packet. And see if maybe this makes it better. Well, let's try this one now. That's equally as weird, but in a different way. So when you put the seasoning on it, the only thing you taste really is the seasoning. So you really don't even taste the noodles or the sauce or any of that. But it's so weird. Like, I'm trying to figure out the way to describe this because that's so odd. It's not, again, it's really not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Would I ever make this and eat it again? No. But this is not the worst thing I've ever eaten by any means. So this one with the seasoning, it tastes very salty, which you'd expect. But it's not terrible. Because again, the seasoning packet completely overpowers all the other flavors of this. So really all you taste is the seasoning and maybe like tiny hints of the cheese and the sauce. But like with this one, I think I'm mostly tasting the sauce on this one, which is so weird because it's mostly cheese. Because I definitely use larger portions of cheese. So, like I expected with the rest of this cookbook, delightfully weird. But honestly, again, it exceeded my expectations in that it's edible, and it's not, I wouldn't make this again, but it's not terrible. Like, I've eaten far worse than this, probably even in school, so it could be worse, honestly. I might actually finish that one. Now, one thing I find that's hilarious is that it says the tacos can be flavored in a variety of ways. It suggests using salsa instead of pasta sauce and topping it with sour cream, guacamole, lettuce, and Mexican blend cheese. I don't know about that. That's just going to be a soggy mess. It's not even going to stay in the shell. It's going to disintegrate the shell because it's going to be so liquidy. It also says, or mix the cooked noodles with teriyaki sauce, topped with shredded cabbage, chestnuts, bamboo, chicken, or pork. I don't understand that one in the slightest. I don't know where you're getting that combination of flavors from. That sounds disgusting. But in all honesty, again, I have eaten worse than this, for sure. Like, this is nowhere near the worst thing I've ever put into my body. So, if you're feeling really, really adventurous, give it a try and let me know what you guys think. It's easy enough to make, so it's not that expensive. I mean, the mozzarella might be a little bit pricier than the other cheeses, than like cheddar cheese and everything else, but shells aren't that pricey, and like one little tomato isn't going to cost you that much. So, I mean, again, it's weird though. That's the explanation I can give you guys, is that it's weird. But if you want to try something extremely weird based out of ramen, feel free to try this and feel free to pick up the cookbook. And let me know if you guys make any recipes from it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like, favorite, share, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell if you haven't already. And if you guys enjoyed it, let me know, and I will definitely make some more recipes from here, because there is some weird stuff in that cookbook, and some things that actually look like they'd be pretty good. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys back here for the next one.